today we're going to be joined by a very special guest. He is ranked #1 in Asia in all of athletics, #2 in the world of pole vaulting, and he is also the first ever Filipino to take home the Asian Games gold, none other than EJ Obiena. EJ, thank you for joining me today, and welcome to the Long Take.
Thanks for having me.
So first off, I want to know how you are, how the past 2 weeks has been for you. I know the calendar is probably full and the schedule is tight.
It's been pretty hectic, trying to accomplish as much as I can in the time that I have here in Manila. And yeah, trying to cover my bases before I leave and make sure that everything is all good, and yeah, pretty much just hammering it down while I can.
So as I mentioned earlier, you did win the Asian Games gold. You made history, but not only that. Of course, you're setting the bar real high for the other athletes, especially young Filipino athletes who now look at you as an inspiration. How are you taking all these in?
I think I'm taking the win pretty okay. But being an inspiration is, I think, a bigger responsibility. You literally have the power to shape future generations. And yeah, right now I'm focusing more on how I could be a better athlete, more than just being an inspiration. That I still haven't figured out and how to do my best. And yeah, it's still, how do you say, it's still something that's new for me. And yeah, I'm trying to know how to fill those shoes as well as I could.
Okay, I want to touch on what you said. You're trying to be a better athlete. It's hard because it's one thing to say that you're going to work on being a better athlete, whatever that takes, and another thing to actually execute it. Have you figured out what you need to improve on most or what you need to work on most?
I mean, being an athlete, I think there's two sides of it. One is, being human, of course, and being an athlete. To be a good athlete, you definitely need to be a good human being. That's how I believe it is. And yeah, definitely a lot of things to work on. In the athlete side of things, I can always be faster, stronger, more efficient in my technique, be stronger mentally as well. Yeah, last year, outdoor season, I missed 4 podium finishes in my competition. And this year I missed 1. And I think even that, I still have possibility to hopefully continue that medal streak next year and be able to be consistent and able to perform any day, any time, in whichever conditions it may be.
You're speaking with a lot of confidence right now, but I know coming into the Asian Games, you did talk about some pressure, especially with a lot of expectations. Everybody's eyes were on you. How are you able to deal with that?
Pressure is something I process, I think, very differently now than before. How can I say this? It's like when you feel pressure, there's something that's about to happen. There's something historic that could be accomplished, or there's an expectation of you. And both of those things, if you kind of step back and process how you arrive to that point where you feel pressure, then you should be privileged to be in that. You know what I mean? As to feel pressure that everybody expect greatness from you, that means you show greatness. You show that you can win. You show that a consistent day-to-day appearance of winning. Therefore, everybody expects you to win.
And everybody knows you're capable of winning. That's why they expect a lot from you.
Maybe. I don't know. But I think, yeah, my season moving forward, it kind of set it up into that expectation. Therefore, yeah, there was a lot of pressure. And I think definitely the media kind of put a big, how do you say, big expectation, because they pretty much said it's an automatic gold, which, as an athlete, nothing is. Sabi nga, bilog ang bola. So everything is possible. And yeah, that I felt. But everything else and how I digest it, I dissect a lot of little things to kind of make, feeling that pressure in my corner a positive.
You said your season, you mentioned your season. You've had a long one. What made you decide to compete in the Asian Games? Kasi, I mean, it's another process of just preparations. Obviously, well, maybe a different kind of preparation. para sa Asian Games?
I didn't really decide or not decide going to Asian Games. It was more, I knew going in, this is going to be a tough one. If I'm going to forego a meet, it's going to be the Southeast Asian Games. And unfortunately, I was called to compete. And I told my coach, how it's going to be. And he said, well, it's going to be tough for you because it's going to be spread out. It's a bit too long of a season. But then he said, if we do it right, you do it smart, then I think you can make it. So when we were planning the year and how it's going to go, it was always been there. It was not something that I was, dwindling or deliberating if I'm going to do it. And probably Asian Games happens only every 4 years. I don't know where I'm going to be in the next 4 years. So,
Okay, so before the Asian Games actually happened, sports analysts were already talking about you. They said the only way that you weren't going to get a gold is for two reasons. It's either one, you don't actually make it to the competition, either ewan ko, maligaw ka or whatnot. And two, if you have a bad day. What's your take on these comments na meron yung mga analysts natin?
There's a lot more things that could go wrong other than those two. Pole vaulting is such a delicate and a sport that upsets do happen. It's just now that you've seen very dominant athletes that consistently perform. That's not usual. One of the greatest of all time have done it, Sergei Bubka. In his long career, he only won Olympics once. And that just shows how, competition in such a level, it's a very variable thing. And for me to have that said, I take pride to that. I'm very, proud that, people think it's something that is automatic, but if I'm being honest, it's not that simple.
Pero hindi ba dagdag, we've already touched on it, yung pressure and how you handle it. It's always like for athletes, it's fight or flight.
Yeah.
And obviously, you've chosen the fight route and you've been very successful. But, when people just keep adding so much pressure and so many comments about how you should be performing and how the results should be, is there a time that maybe you think na, I hope they just don't say anything?
This might sound cocky, but no. It's like, to be honest, I'm kind of, might not be the healthiest thing. I'm kind of always looking for that gun in my head because I notice I perform my best when that's the case. And I feel I was never like this. So I'm gonna just put it this way. I used to hate being under pressure. The moment I understood what it meant, I want to be on that spot as much as possible. I remember I was talking to someone. I was like, Carlos Yulo. He has so much events in gymnastics. He has so much, shots. And I was saying, I only got one. And I was like, I would rather be that. Like I was gonna be in that spot so many times that I'm gonna be like in that point so many times, and I would rather be that. You know what I mean? And it's not because I said, oh, I just want to do it, keep doing it, or have the chance. Like that moment of bliss is incomparable, and that pressure that builds in the way you kind of control and adapt to it, it's very unique, and you can't replicate that. Like there's no amount of money, there's no amount of anything that could replicate that. As you said, you played in UST. That pressure where it's a championship game, you can't replicate that. It doesn't matter how much you do it. You get to that point and it's so unique. It doesn't matter how many championships you've played. Each one of those have different challenges.
Exactly.
And like you adapt to it. That moment you figure it out and push through.
What was a turning point though? Because earlier you mentioned that you weren't like this before, you didn't like pressure, and now you're this.
There's no specific time, I would say. It's more of a constant process and constant learning, of course, on my part, and understanding myself more. And the moment I understood that the position I'm in is a possibility for me for success, I'd rather take that than not feel it. It's the moment I understood that and able to digest it, that this is an opportunity, not a bad thing. You know, not like the way I digest pressure now is so different. Where I used to see it, I see it now as an opportunity, rather than a negative thing.
Looking back though, remembering how you used to feel about it, do you sit down and think, bakit ganon? That was silly back then. I was silly thinking that way. May ganon ba?
Not really, not as well, because it was never silly. I think it was all part of me understanding myself more.
The progress of
Yeah,
it.
the progress of it. And when I go back and see, let's say back in 2019 when I was young, it was how do you say? It was a process that I needed to go through, and I saw myself going through that. It was not a mistake. It was a learning, it's a learning process. So I wouldn't say that bakit ganon or why in this way. It's more like, yeah, I needed to go through that for me to understand where I'm at now.
It had to happen.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, not everything, but yeah, more or less.
Can you maybe share? Not everything? What do you mean
Not
by that?
everything. You know, you make mistakes, and some of them are stupid. So those stupid things, definitely not. But most of the mistakes I made, I think it's something that I've learned from, and the things that I didn't win definitely made me smarter as well.
And that's one thing that helped you win the gold. Again, you won the country's first gold in the 2023 Asian Games. How do you rank this gold as compared to, you know, the other things that you've achieved in the past? Let me add to that. I know right after your win, you said something as well. You feel like that gold is finally yours. It's mine. I think that's what you said. It's mine.
Yeah. I mean, mostly an athlete compete because they want to represent the country, and you know, either it's something that was tasked. You know, it's like in the UAAP, when you play, you're tasked to win a championship for your university, and it's the same for me. It's like I was tasked to win a gold for the country, but because of the way it was narrated, the way I was positioned to be the heavy favorite, it didn't felt like that. It felt that I needed to want this medal. It didn't felt like it's mine. It's almost an opposite thing. Like when someone asks you to win this for me, you go for it. But when everybody's saying, oh, it's yours, then it's almost like an opposite effect. I don't know if you get it.
Kind of, I guess, because you know the amount of work you put in and finally you get the reward of it. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's like nobody would ask you to get something that's yours.
Okay.
So if someone tells you go fight and win this, that means you have a chance, but it doesn't mean that's yours.
Okay.
But the way the media narrated it, it's almost like the medal's in my pocket and I'm going there and doing what? You know what I mean? And that's why I felt like going in, it's almost like villainous being there. Like my presence there kills whatever the fun of it. So I kind of felt like the medal was almost not supposed to be mine. It's probably very confusing. Like the way I see myself in that field was very villainous, like very in a negative way. But I needed to kind of accept that. It's almost like it's a mission, but this is mine.
Interesting that you say, or you use the word villain, because in our eyes, I mean, I can just speak for myself. I was looking at you and you were a hero in my eyes, especially in the world of pole vaulting. And I admit, I was one of those people expecting you to win. Now, do you ever think about that, like the contrast of that you would see yourself as a villain and people would see you as a hero?
Maybe for the 110 million Filipinos, I was a
Uh-huh.
hero because we needed that. But for the rest of the countries that were competing there, they would probably not want me there. You know, they probably everybody probably is like, oh, twist an ankle or something. You know, because as I said, the media narrated it almost as an automatic. So my presence itself there kind of just kills it. And I don't mean I don't like it. That I also don't say that I would not want to be in that position. I'm just saying it's a totally different position that I have never been in.
All right. Now, though, as we speak, do you still see yourself somewhat of a villain, or is it just completely the hero?
I wouldn't say if it's a hero or a villain right now. I was able to do the task that I was asked, and I was able to put my mind into the mode where I could accomplish what I'm supposed to do, and I'm happy to be able to bring back that gold and put it in my, my, how do you say this? My accolades. So I'm happy about that. But that's why when you ask me where do I rank it, it's very hard to rank it because I probably have not appreciated it as much, but I also am just relieved that I have it.
Okay, let's go back to the competition day. I just want to get your thoughts. What were you thinking like before and after you cleared the 5.90 meter mark?
Oh, the 5.90 was easy. That was the easy part. I think that was an icing on the top of the cake. And I didn't need to jump that. It was more for me to experience the crowd. I wanted to live with that emotion. I want to take that opportunity, having 80,000 people focus on one event, focusing on me. I want to feel that. I want to understand how to perform and how does this situation feel, so that if I am ever in that position again, it's easier for me. That's what I wanted to do.
It seemed like you were having a lot of fun.
Well, it ended up being totally opposite of what I expected. So
How come?
I was expecting thousands of boos, not claps. I was
Really?
thinking if I go toe to toe with the Chinese guy, I'm gonna get booed by the crowd for sure. It might be a couple thousand Filipinos there, but the majorities are Chinese, and I would understand. I mean, you've seen how Philippine basketball is and FIBA and all of this. I mean, I expected boos, and when people were cheering for me to jump, it was a totally different experience.
Okay, now I'm curious because I think when you said that you were trying to experience the crowd and how it would be with thousands of fans around you, it was more on the negative side of it? Like, is that what you're saying? Like, you were expecting boos?
I was expecting boos, but I was never booed. So it was never a negative thing come that 590.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say, I guess, is when you said that you were expecting boos and you wanted to have a feel of that audience, was it for you to be able to get your mind in there? I mean, to be mentally tougher and know how to react, how to, I guess, deal with a situation if ever in the future that happens? Is that something that you thought about?
Yeah, I thought about that, but more in a positive sense.
Okay.
Because I can't hear myself. That's how loud that crowd is. And I've never been in a stadium that big. Even though Tokyo was huge, there was nobody there. And this one's probably like the biggest of them all. But going back to if you asked if I wanted to experience it so that I could be better, I think I've lived it in my head. Like I was already thinking in my head that I'm gonna be booed and I should be able to jump. And at least, I don't know until it happens, but to be honest, in my head, mentally, I've run it so many times that I believe if that happened, it wouldn't matter. Like I would still be able to perform because I've kind of processed it already in my head.
And you were ready for it?
I believe so.
Let me just ask you, when you said you couldn't even hear yourself, were you actually trying to talk and try to hear yourself? Or was this just an exaggeration?
I was talking to my coach and we're literally like, maybe his face was like right around there and I can't hear him. I need to really like put his mouth beside my ear to hear him. So, I mean, it is true. It was not something that's in my head.
All right, now, 5.90 meters, you said that was easy. Now, you are one of only 28 people in pole vault history to ever clear the 6 meter mark. With that and everything else that you've achieved so far in your career, would you define your career successful at this point?
It is. It is. I think it's been good. Considering I don't think I have any right to be where I'm at now. I think it's been good. Could it be better? I do believe it also is. I just want to go back to, I just got misquoted so many times, so I just want to make it clear. When I said that 590 was easy, doesn't mean that was easy. It's easy because I already won.
Yeah.
The 575 was actually harder. So, just want to make that clear because I got misquoted and it's spreading everywhere, and it's already in the US. And
Well, you made it look easy. That's why people are riding that train.
No, but like the 590, as I said, was easy, but the 75 was hard because that's the one that decided if I'm going to be a bronze medalist or gold. So that's the crucial part. I missed the first attempt.
Okay, now, just like what we were talking about, you made it look so easy on TV, but how hard is it to be a pole vaulter? Because I think not everybody is familiar with the sport. I don't think people would actually know what they need to train for or start with. Like, what do you have to do? What are the sacrifices and how do you actually train for that?
I mean, physically, pole vaulting is a bit taxing because you do a lot of different things. But I don't think it's the worst part of pole vaulting. So we train speed, we train strength, we train gymnastics, and of course the actual vaulting. So in a week, at least for me, I have more or less 10 trainings per week. Each training is around 3 to 4 hours. It is a full-time job, I would say. It's tough because there's a lot of things that you could work on and a lot of things that you could be better.
Aside from the training hours that you mentioned, what are the other sacrifices that you had to make to get to where you are right now?
It's a lot. I don't think we'll have enough time to kind of go through the whole thing, but if I go and just on the top of my head, the situation I'm in, I'm training with a coach in the foreign land. He lives in Formia. I need to go there. I'm far from family. I'm maybe a month and a half or 2 months in the Philippines. Yeah, living there is not as easy as everybody would think. It's not like Rome, there's a lot of things happening. I'm in Formia where it's in the middle of nowhere, man. Like, it's...
Is it hard to reset?
Depends on what you mean.
Because of where you are?
I would actually... It depends on what you mean by reset.
I mean, just maybe taking your mind off pole vaulting, just doing something quote-unquote fun for the day.
Yeah, but that's the thing. When you want to be the best, you can't have that. And I think that's why that place is such a good place for me to train, because all I can think about is pole vault. All I need to worry about is pole vault, and all I can do is pole vault. So as long as I love the sport, that's a perfect place to be. But when you hate what you do and you start, understanding and being a little bit more like, I have better things to do. I have more things that I actually want to accomplish. Then it's gonna be a hell. That's why it's hard for me to answer the question about the sacrifice, because I understand that this is what I need to do.
They say it takes a very special kind of athlete to become an Olympian. Just the dedication, the perseverance, and everything that you have to do. But, we're all human and everybody has a ceiling. Have you ever been to that point that you're almost reaching your ceiling?
Oh yeah, I think I've overshoot that before. And sometimes, you overestimate yourself to a certain degree that you burn out. And yeah, that's a thing, and I've been there. It's not a fun place to be. Everything that you do and everything seems to be so dreadful. Everything is such a difficult thing to accomplish, and yeah, your day to day becomes a living hell.
Okay, I want to touch on something that happened in the past. You said there was a time that other other countries were making offers for you to switch nationalities, but you turned them down. Obviously, you chose to play for the Philippines. What is it about the Philippines? What is it about the nation or countrymen that you made this decision to do that?
It's more of how I grew up. I'm born here, I was raised here, and I believe that environment made me the man I am now. And I also felt that I had the responsibility to redeem myself. So multiple different things. And also, if I set an example to just, oh, I have a problem, I jump ship, then where's the integrity to that? Where's that strong mentality that every athlete should embody, that will fight to the end? Therefore, I understood what I need, because the moment I accept and change that, then it's going to be a totally different EJ. I'm going to be a totally different person, and probably I wouldn't be as dedicated. I probably wouldn't be as hardworking. The motivation, the way I motivate myself to move forward, the way I push myself to my limits, it's going to be a totally different thing. The moment I decide, oh, I want to represent a different country, a country that didn't raise me, that's not part of my identity, and unfortunately, I'm not representing the people that raised me.
Okay, so obviously you've been through a lot of challenges, but correct me if I'm wrong, 2022 is probably one of the hardest with your knee surgery. And then, I mean, it's public knowledge, there was a lot of misunderstanding and issues and a lot of concerns between your camp and Patafa and all that. How did you get through all of that?
The right people surrounding me, with a team that I just so happened to build in no blueprint. Like, the people I work with, these are not the people I look for or decided to work with. Just so happened that these people, for some reason, come my way. That's why I always say I'm very blessed to be surrounded with people that care and love me, and to be in such a position that I am able to do what I love. And because, I mean, it was not as simple as it may seem.
EJ, did you really think that you were ever gonna let go of pole vaulting? Because I know around that time, that was also, one of the things going around, that you were actually considering quitting pole vaulting.
I was not considering. I was done. I was like, if this doesn't work, if I'm done. I think that time, in that point in my career, I was okay. I was like, I'm done. I'm an Olympian, and that's what I promised my mom and my dad. I was like, after 2021, I'll decide how I can do. And I knew I wanted to go forward. I wanted to take that risk because I knew I could do good in Paris. But knowing that the whole issue that's revolving around me was kind of putting me in a bubble where I know I can't accomplish, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to keep trying, even though I know this is going to be futile. I know I'm going to not be able to do what I set out to do. Then I'm going to be I'm kidding myself. I was done. That's like, we can ask everyone in my team. I said, if we can't fix this, if it doesn't work in a way that I can train and I can be better as an athlete, I'm done. Like, I'll hang it. That's why those options came out, because nobody wanted me to quit. Everybody believed that I had the possibility, but I knew what I need to do to be better. And if that is not a possibility, then I'm not going to be, if I don't believe that I can do it, then I'm not going to do it.
That's very important, because mental strength is something taught in an early stage for an athlete, right? Technicalities aside, what were the things that you were telling yourself to be able to get through that? I know you had a lot of support from your family, your friends, your camp, and everybody around you. But how were you supporting yourself?
I didn't have enough time to actually dive deep into feeling bad and feeling depressed. was almost like a constant battle every single day that would turn your stomach upside down. There's no time to feel sorry for myself. I had time after, definitely. It's a totally different feeling the moment it just stopped. But while it was happening, I was not thinking, oh, this is so bad. Why is this happening to me? I was like, no, I want to get the truth out. I want to get this over with. I want to get back to what I need to do, and I'm fighting. And I was in that mode, and it was nothing a sort that I feel so bad for myself. There's none of that at that time.
When you were able to speak your truth, was that the point na, how do I say, parang nabunutan ka ng tinik?
Oh yeah, I started weeping in front of thousands of people in the Senate. The moment I was able to tell the whole freaking story in a place where I'm heard, I lost it. I weep like a little kid because all that stress that was bottling up, it was something that I never want to wish to anyone, not even to my worst enemy.
How important do you think that was for you to transition into, getting back on track, being this athlete that you are now, just letting those emotions go, letting all the beef go, and just focusing at the task at hand?
I mean, the results of this year kind of speaks for itself. I'm not gonna say that, I had a perfect season.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing was I was finally able to do what needs to be done.
Mm.
And I mean, I've done pretty well, I would say. And that's all because I was able to do what needs to be done and be able to train at peace and be able to do my thing. And with freedom, with my team, with my coach. And finally, for once in my career, I was able to do it.
Mm-hmm. If I may say, I think you've done more than pretty well this year alone. Okay, so Asian Games, obviously off your checklist. You declined to answer what's next for you in the Olympics right after winning that gold medal. But right now, how's the preparation like for you for the Paris Olympics?
I'm still vacation mode right now. I'm still not thinking about it, but I know it's gonna be tough. In a few days, I need to start, and I understand what I would need to do. But right now, I'm just following what my coach also said: live a little, enjoy, because you're gonna need that energy.
Can I ask, when you say your coach is encouraging you to live a little, now what do you do to live a little?
Oh, I like playing tennis. I like playing. I was in paddle a while ago with Nico, and I was like, it was something that I like to do. It's also just not having, how do you say, a plan for the next 5 months of your life. It's something that's very interesting for me. I'm very happy. The way my life kind of works is very planned because I'm aiming to be, what I aim to be, and it takes this. But right now I have at least 2 weeks to be a human being, to be not an athlete per se, to be me, to be able to eat mangoes that are, being sold in the street.
Okay.
That's
your
something
guilty
that I miss.
pleasure?
Yeah, I mean, even kakanin, these things, and the little things that I can't get in Formia. I mean, bubble teas and all that. Probably someone's gonna text me later, oh, you drank bubble tea there. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I drank quite a lot. So.
Well, we can walk down the street and maybe find you some dried mangoes too.
Oh, not
the green
not,
mangoes.
The green mangoes.
mangoes.
Yeah, those are good. Like, yeah, perfect.
Okay, now everybody knows about Paris next year, but what about 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I know it's hard to answer, but I guess what I'm asking is, what's your vision of yourself? Because you're what? You're 27. You're 27 right now. Do you see yourself competing like we're 37?
Oh no.
That's why I'm asking the question.
So the way I see it, as I said, it's something that if I believe something is possible, then it is. Right now, I see Paris as a possibility for me, and my sights are there.
Okay.
And probably one of the things that the issue kind of brought to me is I understood there's more to life than just training, focusing on pole vault, doing all of this. That whole issue showed me how small pole vaulting is in the whole spectrum of the world. And giving perspective to someone sometimes is good, sometimes it's bad, because as an athlete, I need to see that this is my world. And now I'm open. That's why I kept telling my mentor, it's like, it's getting harder. It's getting harder for me to stay in Formia and live there and be obsessed with this craft.
And you have to be obsessed at
I
your
have
level.
to.
Yeah.
I have to.
Understand.
And I can do that until 24. That I can promise. That I can promise myself. That I can guarantee everyone. Like, there's gonna be nothing, no cheat meal, no.
Except for the
Thanks.
green mangoes.
Yeah, and exactly. And yeah, aiming for Paris, I'll do whatever I can to be there at the best of my abilities. After that, I don't know if I can keep doing the sacrifice that needs to be done. So that's a totally different story.
So pole vaulting and Paris Olympics aside, where do you see yourself maybe in the future pursuing your engineering career, or maybe being a coach, or both?
Pursuing my degree, that's something that I see myself doing. Being a coach, that's hard. Being a full-time coach, it's hard because I saw how my coach did it for me. And the standard that I see how it's supposed to be done is in such a high level that I understand that I probably couldn't fully fulfill it in the best of my abilities without living my life. So I don't know. The wind will blow where the wind will blow.
Do you think you have the patience for it? I think that's
Right
the hardest
now?
part. That's the
Right
hardest part,
now,
I
no.
heard.
Right now, no. I think the hardest part of a coach is that you can do everything that you can and still feel like you could have turned some stones. So as an athlete, you know, the moment you do it, you're done. Like, I put everything there. I lost. As a coach, you prepare your athlete to be ready. And there's so many variables.
Okay.
You never know what's the right formula. And I don't think I can live with that. And it's hard to, because as a coach, you change the trajectory of someone's life. You win a gold and silver, that's a totally different thing. And it might be on your hands as a coach.
That's your responsibility.
And I don't think I could have that, at least not yet. I don't believe that I can live with that yet. So I don't know. I'm not closing the doors to it, not saying yes to it. I'm just saying I do believe it's a very hard job to do.
So either still a pole vaulter, an engineer, just not a coach yet.
Not yet, exactly.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now I want to talk about the programs that you're involved in. I know, you've gotten a lot of incentives and prizes and support from different people, and you also said that you don't want all of that money to just go to you.
Yeah.
Talk about the grassroots program that you're supporting and your plan for those.
So I'm working with a bunch of different brands, and I'm doing an auction because there's not a lot of places where athletes can actually pole vault. If you look at it, there's a lot of places where there's a stadium, there's no pole vault pits, and there are kids jumping without a pit, and that's very limited and it's very dangerous. So my goal, hopefully, is to be able to get 3 pits all over Philippines, where the sport is the sport is in a place where it's very inaccessible.
Yeah.
So that's something I want to do and be able to accomplish. Then I've partnered with a brand that would sustain the clinics on that area of the country.
We know in the UAP, a lot of young athletes are trying to train, and you said there's not a lot of pits where people can just easily train. I mean, just getting into the UAP, you need access to that, right? How important is it for you to be able to give back and have young athletes experience that kind of support, the support that you're getting right now?
I think it's totally an integral part of the next generation of pole vaulters. I'm an aberration. Like, I'm not supposed to exist in, I'm like, the story of Egypt would never be something, it's almost like a fairy tale. A lot of things click, a lot of things align. For me to meet my coach, for me to be born in a family where my dad's a pole vaulter, for me to grow how I grew. It's a totally difficult thing to replicate. But the more pole vaulters out there in the whole Philippines, then there's probably more that's gonna be able to win us SEA Games medals, Asian Games medals, even Olympic Games. That's what I want to accomplish. That's what I want to be able to give, because I do believe the interest of pole vaulting is at an all-time high, and I want to capitalize on that and make sure that when I do decide I can't do this no more, there's gonna be a next guy winning medals for
Give
us.
it a few years.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well, you said it's like a fairy tale, your story, but again, we move on to the next chapter. So with that, of course, we want to thank you for your time,
Oh,
EJ.
thank you.
Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for joining us in the long take.
Oh, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right.